Uh, Hello guys, today I'm going to go on a rant on skill building and more specifically skill building in Counter-Strike. So in Counter-Strike we mostly talk about the competitive matches and matchmaking, and there are all sorts of skill there. There are grenade lineups, map awareness, knowledge about common situations, the movement, when should you move, why, how, and there are so many different things. And today we are going to look at a very controversial set of skills, and those are the movement and shooting, the mechanics of the game, so to say. So a lot of people are building this skill to have a competitive advantage. So you hop into a game, you see this guy, you're able to just instantly flick to his head, and boom, you have secured your bomb site, you have secured your round in some situations. And in other times, when this guy does this to you, they win the round, so you lose, and you have to move so you don't get shot. And you build this skill of movement and switching targets and shooting and flicking and all these skills to have a competitive advantage. But what most people do is they spend their time practicing very inefficiently. Let's say we have a player with 1,000 hours in the game, and we can expect he can hit some nice shots from time to time. Maybe with the op, he can bump this guy in the chest, easy. And but realistically, how many of these 1,000 hours are in the execution of this exact movement, like pump, 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 pump? Probably less than 1 hour. Most of the time is spent in holding an angle, rotating, being dead and spectating teammates, communicating, and every other aspect of the game. So this particular flick has very, very little love, so to say. Yeah, you have done it so little, relatively to how much you've been playing that. It's exactly, you can say you have never done it compared to how much you've played. And most people play a lot when they are told that to get good you need to play a lot. And they play a lot and play a lot, but some small fundamental movements they are completely lacking at. So if we take this example, the flick here, this flick, there are people that have been playing for 2,000 hours and have done this flick only for 2 hours, for example. When you add up the time that takes from here to here. So in this practice, we are going to break down a skill and practice its components. And instead of getting this all average results where you have one guy on aimbots spamming here and killing 1,000 bots in spraying, moving, shooting, whatever, flicking, you are going to break down the skills into components, and you're going to master this component. So some guy will be practicing for 10 hours and will be practicing for 10 hours as well, but while he has been doing this, you will be doing this. And it really makes a difference, because by taking more than you can learn, you really hinder your understanding capabilities. So it's a lot easier to get this right than to get this right, running and flicking. So it's really difficult, because you have to account for the movement by tracking your crosshair in the opposite direction of which you're moving. So you have to have this in your head. So how much should I move my arm right, and when should I exactly stop with a counter strafe and move my arm to the mouse to the other side so I can hit this shot. And this takes a lot of it is very difficult to get this whole package at a time. It is like building the pyramids. If you're building the pyramids, which would be easier? To take a block of stone that weighs 1 ton, moving it to the right place, or will it be easier to move a block of 1 kilogram? So 1 kilogram eventually might take more time, more tries, more repetitions in general, but it's a lot easier to move 1 kilogram than 1000. So the same with skills. It's a lot easier to get this skill down and then move to this skill, the opposite flick, than it is to start moving, stopping, shooting, and doing all this other stuff. So let's give an exercise, for example. While most people will be doing this, which is moving crosshair from head to head and scanning and moving and spraying, you will be isolating skills and spend the same time they are spending, but you will spend it strategically. So instead of doing 10 minutes of this bursting, you will be doing 10 minutes of this, for example. You're trying to isolate this flick, for example. That's the skill you're trying to build. And you'll be doing this for 10 minutes. Well, it's you will find it's pretty boring, and you'll be very tempted to continue this way of running around and shooting. But you should remember that once you get very good at this, you get it starts being reflexive. So it takes, let's say, for this movement to become reflexive, it takes some total of 100 hours. Let's say after 100 hours of doing this, it becomes absolutely reflexive. What does this mean? Well, it means you're aiming like this. You can always auto-adjust your crosshair and kill this guy no matter what. And this is useful in many situations. For example, if you flick and your flick is not perfect, since you have this auto-adjustment thing, so reflexive, you essentially build your human skills to be like an aimbot, which I think is very beneficial for competitive play. And since you're so reflexive at this, it can be taken to many situations, and the difference in situation will not hinder your ability to perform it. So if it takes effort for you to track this guy, for example, here in practice, in a practical environment, when you start playing a competitive game, when you get stressed, when you have to think what the enemy is about to do, when you have to think what you're going to do to counter it and things like that, this time you are usually spending on correcting your mechanics that are still not reflexive. You will be unable to spend on mechanics, so it will hinder your ability to hit this shot, for example, where you're holding some corner and the guy pops out of nowhere and you have to adjust your shot. And since this is not reflexive, you have to think about it. And if you're thinking about it, you won't have time to think if this guy is going to peek or not, and what should you do? Should you move out of the bomb site? And you will usually lose matches where these guys, they have their skills down, and it's absolutely necessary to have these skills reflexive for you as well, so you can be at least on par with their ability. And building this reflexive nature just frees you of, gives you more time to think in general, which is very, very positive and desirable in a competitive game, because there are so many tricks to lure you and take your bomb site, for example, and you have to think it and resist such temptations that the enemy team is trying to trick you into acting upon, like these urges. So instead of, so you're building good reflexive behavior, and now after 10 hours of practice, while you've been practicing this small thing and the other guy has been running and shooting and all this, well, you've gotten so good at this because it's easy, but you have moved beyond what is the average human capability of this, because I'll tell you 99% of people are not practicing this small thing for 10 hours. Maybe pro players are, I don't know, I'm not a professional player, but I'll tell you that most people do not practice this. And if you practice this and get like in the 99th percentile of this, then you have a huge advantage, because maybe the other guy can come and run and gun, and but he's only in the 70 percentile of the player base, so he's nothing exceptional, he's just average, he's mediocre. And by you having this ability, there will be times when you will counter his mediocre skills, whereas they won't be able to counter your master skills. And after this block of time, let's say you have 10 hours into this, well, maybe you can do 10 hours into this other side. So it's a lot of practice, but it is evenly distributed and it's focused on the same thing. So you will be getting results much quicker, because after you get this down, well, getting it to the other side is relatively the same thing, and it's the same process, but you've gone through this process once, so you know what it's like to be for the other side, and it's gonna happen faster. So now you have this left and right, you can now practice down, you can practice up, but the importance here is that you're not wasting your time into wasting your practice time into practicing multiple things simultaneously, because once you get very good at this, now you can take some time into practicing switching between them. And if you're practicing at the same time left to right, right to left, up down, whatever, it becomes really confusing, and you can't really get it down to earth and to practice. You just have this mediocre thing. Well, if you have this perfect skill, you can combine it with another perfect skill, and then you have the whole package faster than if you would have practiced everything at the same time. I have been repeating myself for a while, but I just cannot stress the importance of segregating these skills into their own little practice routines. So if you have uh, practice time, you should practice only one thing at a time, and practice it for a lot of time. And it at first, maybe first few days, maybe first 4 weeks or whatever, you won't get as much out of it as this guy who is been running around and shooting, for example, like this, and and trying to learn at the same time, because he will be have better movement than you. But at some point, when you are done with this skill, with the mastering of this skill, you will be light years ahead of him when it comes to it. And now you're free to start moving and practice your movement, which you haven't practiced. And now at some point, this movement that he has is unable to carry him against your aiming skill. And if he wants to catch up to you, he will have to break down every part of his movement, and have to get rid of bad habits that he learned throughout his experience practicing. Because instead of learning the perfect flick, the perfect 1 centimeter flick, he learned the mediocre version of it, and he learned everything in a like suboptimal way, whereas you have something that you can rely on always. Where if he someday doesn't feel really confident in his running and shooting thing, because I don't know, there might be a million variables influencing that, but he doesn't feel it. He doesn't have something to fall back to. Whereas if you are running and shooting, maybe someday you don't feel this when every shot is connecting. Now you have something to back to, because you know this thing, you have a 100% success rate on it. So if you're in a game and you're not feeling right this game, you don't feel like you can run and kill everyone, you can fall back to holding this angle, and you know that if this guy peeks, you can just flick to the left and be done with him, you know. And about the practice, the practice should not be painful. If you're practicing 10 hours of shooting, please don't do it in one sitting, because it will exhaust you. You will get hungry, you will get thirsty, you will get sleepy, you will get socially deprived, you will get all sorts of negatives, and you will get frustrated, and then after these 10 hours you won't be sitting to practice anymore. You won't feel like it, you won't have this urge to play. It won't be fun for you. Whereas if you play like 15 minutes every day, 30 minutes every day, make it manageable, you'll be much more likely to put extra time. You'll be much more likely to come next week again and practice, come next month again and practice. You'll build this habit of practicing, and this is the most important thing in skill building: consistency, building a consistent habit that is optimal for a situation. And also, there are times when you want to practice deliberately, where you put a lot of intention into flicking. You think this and you think how you should move your mouse to the head of this player, for example. And there are times where you just put up the practice so you can get the mileage on it. So you can make it adaptive to your situations. So you have been practicing this for 10 hours, and now you can continue practicing still this, continue putting up hours, but since you got the basics down really well, you can put up some audiobooks to listen to on your headphones, you can put some music, you can start developing other skills simultaneously, because this thing you've already got it down. So you can start moving and doing this type of thing where you are still flicking to the right, to the left, you're still doing this, but you're doing it in succession to a stop, like I'm stopping here and moving. So you have this ability now, and these are other skills that you have mastered, and you just learn how to tie them together. And it's not very deliberate right now, because everything you're practicing you already know, except you're learning how to put them together. And now, after practicing in this environment where no one can shoot you back, and you've gotten so good at it that it's just, you're just unparalleled at some point, you start exploring and adding more variables, because after you got your movement down so well that it never betrays you, after you've gotten your aim down so well that it never betrays you, now you have a lot more mental energy and focus on side things. For example, like other weapons, you have been practicing with the AK, and now you want to practice with the M4A1S, and you can now spend some time into getting the other weapons, to know the other weapons. Maybe you can spend some time in deathmatch, but it is now more effective for you to practice deathmatch instead of this thing, because you already got it down, you're a master at it. So essentially what I'm teaching here is breaking down problems into smaller manageable chunks and tackling them, these smaller problems. So thanks for the watching. I hope this helped. I hope you take this knowledge and apply it to your training, and bye.